Hello, my friends. Good Erev Shabbos. Happy Friday, followed by a wonderful, beautiful, uplifting, and inspirational Shabbos Kodesh. Let's go off the beaten track. And I'm going to do something I've never done on this video before, but I've quoted this many, many times in many other situations. If statistics are right, the Jews constitute but 1% of the human race. It suggests a nebulous dim of stardust lost in the blaze of the Milky Way. Properly, the Jew ought hardly to be heard of. But he is heard of. He has always been heard of. He is as prominent on the planet as any other people. And his commercial importance is extravagantly out of proportion to the smallness of his bulk. His contributions to the world's list of great names in literature, science, art, music, finance, medicine, and abstruse learning are also way out of proportion to the weakness of his numbers. He has made a marvelous fight in this world in all ages, and has done so with his hands tied behind his back. He could be vain of himself and be excused for it. The Egyptian, the Babylonian, and the Persian rose, filled the planet with sound and splendor, and then faded away to dream stuff and passed away. The Greek and the Roman followed, made a vast noise, and they're gone now. Other peoples have sprung up, held their torch high for a time, but it burned out, and they sit in twilight now, or have vanished. The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was, exhibiting no decadence, no infirmities of age, no weakening of his parts, no slowing of his energies, no dulling of his alert and aggressive mind. All things are mortal but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret to his immortality? I just read from Mark Twain. And Mark Twain ends with a question. What's the secret to the fact that we're still here? He lists all these people that we fought, that we met, that try to destroy us, to try to enslave us, and we're still here, and they're not. Had Mark Twain lived a little longer, he could have said, the communists, the Nazis, and on and on. And yet, we're still here. So he ends with a question. What is the secret to his immortality? This week's Parsha, this week's Torah reading, holds that secret. You see, this week we start a new book. We finished the book of Bereshit, of Genesis, and now we're starting the book of Shemos. Translation means names, but what it means, but the book is called in English Exodus, talking about the Jewish people leaving Egypt and becoming a real nation. But we all know that before they left Egypt, Moses, was in the desert, and he was shepherding his sheep, and he got to Mount Sinai. At that time, Mount Sinai was nothing special, at least he didn't know it was. And he was, what do shepherds do? They have a lot of time on their hands, so they think. They spend a lot of time for thinking. And he was thinking about his people back in Egypt. And he was thinking, what's going to happen with them? Is it possible for anything to be beaten and beaten and beaten and keep going? Keep burning? And then he saw the bush. And the pasuk, the verse says, V'sar liros, he turned to see it because he said, this is the answer to my question. This bush is miraculous, it's being beaten, it's burning, there's a fire going on. But yet, it's not being consumed, it's not turning to ash, it's not turning black, it just keeps burning. Here is something that can burn and not be destroyed. That's the answer to my question. Can the Jewish people suffer and not be destroyed? And he came up to the bush to figure out his answer. And what was his answer? A rabbi named Rabbi Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, who was popularly known as Netziv, points out something that every real estate agent will tell you. Location, location, location. God told Moshe, you're going to take the Jewish people out, and you're guaranteed that they're going to survive, just like this bush. Why? Where is the bush located? The bush is attached to Mount Sinai, where the Torah is going to be given. The bush can burn. The bush can suffer. But it can never disappear, because it will always be connected to Sinai. The Jewish people are going to get a Torah. And throughout the generations, yes, they're going to suffer, but they will never be burnt up. They will never disappear. How often am I asked, Rabbi, what is your answer to the Holocaust? Why did God do that to us? And this tragedy, and that tragedy. My answer is usually, I don't know. I'm not a prophet. I don't know how God works in the inner workings of heaven. But why don't we ask the other side of the question? How are we still here? There are other people that suffered as much as we did, and they don't complain. You know why they don't complain? Because they're not here anymore. They suffered, they were destroyed, they're gone. No one left to complain. We suffered, but we're still here. Why? So that I can answer. And it's not my answer. It's not even my question. Mark Twain's question. But the answer is, from the Netziv, as long as the Jewish people are connected to Sinai, we will never disappear. Why? It says in the Zohar, a book on Kabbalah, on Jewish mysticism, Yisrael va'araisa v'kudsha b'richu chadhu. Yisrael, the Jewish people, Oraisa, which is the Torah, v'kudsha b'richu, and the Holy One, blessed be He, God, are one. God is infinite. The Torah is attached to God, and therefore the Torah is infinite. As long as the Jewish people are attached to God by being attached to the Torah, we remain infinite. And that's the answer to that question. Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens, brilliant man. But he didn't know the answer because he was not a Talmud scholar, he was a scholar. But the Netziv knew the answer, and that is, as long as we are attached to Torah, we will always be attached to God, and we will always be infinite. Shabbos.